starting.
Good evening. I'm calling the meeting to order. Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Green will be absent tonight. I'm looking to move down to the approval of the consent agenda for minutes of the September 12th, 2023 regular meeting. September bills totaling $1,610,186.15. The financial reports, which were included in your packet, including revenues and expenses. The 2023-24 professional development plan, 2023-24 assessment plan, and 2023-24 bus routes.
Bus routes?
And I am on not the agenda for tonight because I didn't get one.
What did you just read?
I just read the last minute's meeting
I wonder where
so
you got bus
well
routes from.
Yes.
because it's not in the first page.
Right.
But I read where I opened so well, and I thought that wasn't anything I read in my packet, and our bills were somewhere close to $3 million.
Point of order,
and our
Mr.
revenues were
President,
like
would you get on the right page?
1.87, so.
They're backwards.
Point of order, Mr. President, please get on the right page so we can start the meeting.
Oh. So they have reorganized my book, so I will take a 2 on this here in just a moment.
And
Go
Brian,
to
you're
the
gonna
very
find
back.
2 Monday, November 13th. One's the minutes template and
flip
one's the
back 2
actual
pages.
agenda.
All right. So I just read the minutes from October 10th to let you all know. So I will go back to the minutes that sound a little bit better to the numbers that I read, because I thought we already did bus routes and all this stuff. I didn't read that in the packet this time. And the bills are much better in line with where I thought they were this time. Much higher than normal, but they were back in line, so. We will go back. So the minutes of the October 10th board meeting, which I kind of just recapped for everyone. The minutes of the October 30th special meeting, the minutes of the November 8th special meeting, October bills, which were $3,273,248.51. The financial reports, which did include expenses and revenues, the food service report from OPA, and the library report that was from Mrs. Otto. Back on task.
We don't have anyone here to comment on library report, right?
We do not, no.
Yeah, then I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I have 6 questions. First one is, and I don't know how many of you saw this or not, where did we get hospital beds to sell?
Yeah, that comes from this building having been a residence for students. They had beds that are like hospital beds that we've been selling for the surplus.
Okay, it was just kind of odd to have hospital one. We received $68,000 from the title company. Is that part of
Was that-
Southeast maybe?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was a sale of Southeast, yes, sir. That went into Fund 4 for capital.
Okay. And then there was an FNS breakfast for $28,600 income.
So that wasn't an acronym I was familiar with when this day started, but it's Food and Nutritional Services, and I should have been. And so that's the breakfast portion of student meals that were deposited. There would also be a lunch portion.
Okay. That's on the income side.
I was going to say that was on the revenue statement, which was about 1.87, if I remember correctly.
Say again?
I said the revenue portion, which I believe was about 1.87. Our bills were a lot higher than normal. They came out to the 3 million and some change, but our revenues were a lot higher. Usually they're a little bit closer. So we had about $1 million I saw in salary and expense and about 2 million in operating expenses from last month. Just things that I noted when I was reviewing.
There's a bill in there, or we paid KMMO about $1,200. And you guys have heard it all on the radio about the bus advertising all the time. And that's 3 or 4 months, so we paid them roughly $5,000. Are we getting any benefit out of that, or is there something else connected to it that's bigger than that, or?
Yeah, we have gotten some applicants out of it. And then they have, I can't think of the name of it right now, but where they're able to target an audience. So say people who are doing searches for transportation jobs within a 50-mile radius. So they're able to push it out to a select audience. Just in the last 2 weeks, our local newspaper has acquired the same capacity for advertising, but that's pretty powerful for everyone carrying that computer in their pocket, that they'll get those advertisements that they don't really love, but they're targeted advertisements based on where they are and what they're searching.
Good. And there was $54,000 to the SHL door lock and hardware. And that was for our locks or?
Yeah, so what it ended up actually being, that hardware was not related to doors, which is where I would have thought in my thinking, but it was related to technology purchases. SHL is I think actually SHI, and it's Dell docking stations for computers to plug into, so a computer like this can plug into, and that's what it was referencing. So part of that falls under the technology plan that we present each spring for our expenditures there.
Okay, just as a side note there, they did get the door locks out at the nursing, put in at the nursing center.
We put a lot in all over the district, yeah. Now,
They're
specific
about
to
the
that
last
building,
ones.
if it's installed yet or not, I don't know, but it's on its way. So there's been a lot of waiting on products too.
My third one was a Colas Gold for $19,000.
And the Gold throws one off as well, but Acellus is an online learning platform, which previously we used Admentum, which was it was more than twice as much as that. We went to Acellus this year. It's about $20,000 district-wide, and that's for students who are doing remote learning as an online platform, which kind of goes back to that COVID stuff when you're having students that aren't able to be at school for various reasons. This is a platform. And we also use it for credit recovery for students if they're behind in credits or in an alternative setting needing credits.
Okay. It's gonna be really fun when we have a whole meeting and never say the word COVID.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. I hope it's before I retire in like a decade, because it seems like it'll never go away, but I agree.
Thank you, Caleb.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the consent agenda as outlined, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, I'm moving for the adoption of the agenda for the remainder of the meeting as listed. I have no additions.
So moved. Second.
been-
Everything for the closed agenda is also highlighted as needed. We don't have anything that's highlighted that doesn't need to be, or things that aren't highlighted that do need to be.
Yeah, correct.
I hate walking into a closed session and then all of a sudden,
It's all good.
that's okay?
There are no additions.
Okay,
We had 3 dots, I think I recall, so.
perfect.
It's been moved. Was there a second, Secretary?
Yeah.
As well? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving down to public comments. Seeing that most everyone is here for the business of the agenda, I'm assuming probably not, but I'm going to wait another moment or two. And as I'm waiting, Mr. Heinzler, if you want to make your way up towards the podium with Ms. Dobbins. Now going to have a spotlight from our high school principal, Jimmy Heinzler, and Kelly Dobbins, instructional coach at the high school.
Yeah, and this is about our NWEA testing, which the K-8 has had iReady for their diagnostics for a while. We were looking at something that we could add to the high school to help us figure out where the gaps in learning were. And this is what we have adopted and started. And I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Dobbins, because she's kind of the guru at this now. She's done a marvelous job with it.
Thank you. So iReady, we do K-8. We could not find something that did both the diagnostic as well as remediation and instruction. Unfortunately, iReady does that, well, awesomely, iReady does that for K-8. Unfortunately, it does not do that for the high school. So we had to come up with 2 different programs. So, and 2 programs that would talk to each other. So to do that, we did NWA, which is our diagnostic, which tests the kids, finds out where they're at, and then we came together using IXL, which is another program that speak to each other, and so IXL is then the remediation, the teaching portion of it. So, we'll see if I can do this one right. Yay. We can, with NWEA, which is a diagnostic, we can have school-wide data as well as grade level and individual data. So if we look at this report here, this is for math. I just had to, sorry, my vision here, even with glasses. This is our math. And so this is, at the top we have school-wide, and then at the bottom we can go by grade level. We were not supposed to be testing seniors just because at this point we want to focus on improvements that we can make. Not that we can't improve seniors, but the amount of course load that they are taking reduces the amount of impact that we're going to have. And then the cost of the program as well helps us or hurts us to be able to test them. But you can see blue is going to indicate those students that are well above grade level. Green is going to be above 2 grade level. Then yellow we get to grade level and approaching grade level. Then we go to orange, which is going to be below grade level, and red is going to be far below grade level. So we have some room to grow. But we also now know exactly where our students are. Then we can look at our reading. Same thing. We took 4 diagnostic tests, plus then we were able to also do a short inquiry into Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 that tells them where they are specifically with those 2 courses as well. But this is our reading. And then we do language usage as well. So 2 tests in the ELA realm to diagnose how far below our students are, grade level, and then also their language usage. But then we have math, and then we also do science. Within science, we can do K-12 science, but our students test in biology, life science, so we're also able to test our sophomores specifically to see how well they are approaching the readiness for that EMC as well. So this is our language usage statistics for our school as well as each of the grade levels. Here you can see this is our science K-12, and then also our life sciences for biology. Our math is our lowest. Academically, that's where we are struggling the most. ELA, we're doing the best right now when we consider comparing on grade level and approaching grade level or above. We can then also look at our other data points, which is really cool with NWEA. A teacher can go in and I can look specifically at my class and my students and figure out where they're at as a whole. But then I can also go in and do a class report, which just looks overall, not just individually. I can go into each individual student, and then I can also do a family report, which is what we sent home to our all of our parents that took that test, for our kids that took that test. We then can look at IXL, which then takes that data and utilizes it. When we do that, we're going to use it in OWL time for RTI purposes. So that is remediation based on their holes in learning. We're meeting them at grade level. I had students who specifically called me in and said, hey, Ms. Dobbins, I'm a junior and this says 5th grade. And I said, well, that means that's a 5th grade skill that you are missing. Now, as soon as they mastered that skill, it kicked them right back up to a junior level skill that was the next skill that they needed. So it meets them exactly where their holes are and fills those holes and gaps in learning. It will also help with growth and extension for those that are ready to move on. So our students that are ahead of the game, it's going to push them even further. It doesn't limit them because of their grade level or whatever course that they are enrolled in. We are allowed to push them on to learn even more skills and standards. The best thing is it's an individualized skill plan. We don't have the same skills. We aren't going to sit down and do the exact same activities. It's going to be very specific to what my results said I need. and what his results said that he needs. So it is an individualized skill plan that we use. Within the classroom, though, this is where I get excited, because the teachers are coming back and saying this is an awesome tool that we now have at our disposal, because we are able to look at what we're currently teaching, and we can remediate in the classroom immediately. If students aren't getting it, I can pull a small group and assign them this activity, and it gives them a chance to go over that material one more time. Sometimes, I don't know if you have children like I do, but I could say it 10 times. Mr. Heinzler can come in and say it one time, and they believe him, even though he said exactly the same thing. So we're able to teach it just another way very quickly to those kids in class. And our teachers are really enjoying using that. And then really great thing is that even though this is a national program, it is aligned to the Missouri state standards, so our learning standards. In our classrooms, we do have lessons. ELA and math, we have K through 12, but it will also push into college algebra and go beyond just 12th grade information. Our science, though, for right now, they are still building science, and so it is a K-8 curriculum, but our teachers have gone in and looked at the standards that are being taught at the 8th grade and even some at the 7th grade level, and using them as precursors. So they're giving them bits of information before they even teach the material, so then they can anchor their learning on something. They've already heard about it a little bit, and then they can go in and dive into the lesson. So they're giving them bits and pieces, and they're finding a lot of success using it in science that way. We also have access to textbook alignment. We don't have a lot of textbooks at the high school level. We're getting back to looking at new resources, but we can align to textbooks. So they have several textbooks that they already have downloaded into the program, and it will align directly with those textbooks if we have those. And then, again, standards-based lessons. So if I know this is the standard I'm teaching today, I can look for that exact standard and find activities and resources to help support the lesson that I'm teaching. One of the greatest things that we're going to start doing with our seniors, and actually just started last week, is our test prep for them. We want our students to be successful, college and career ready when they graduate, and so we can help them increase their ACT scores. We can also help them with their ACT work keys. If they're not going to college, they can take the ACT work keys, and they can get credentials and hopefully then progress earlier into applications and interviews here within the community with businesses that support the work keys. We have TABE testing, which would help our Missouri Options program get ready for taking the GED courses, but also TABE will help our students that want to go into community colleges. Some of them do the TABE, but most of them do Access. The closest to Access testing for community college is that TABE test. We have EOC prep as well as WIDA prep that's also available through this program. So we're going to be able to help our kids learn how to be better test takers, as well as remediating and pushing our kids forward within the curriculum. This is the data that's pretty impressive to me when we look at the school as the whole. As of this morning, we had our students had answered 212,215 questions using IXL. And this is in 1 month. We've only really been using this for 1 month, okay? And we have mastered 3,649 skills. That's pretty cool. And that updates. So I did this presentation, I put this together on Thursday, and then I wanted fresh data, make sure I had it, and we had increased 50,000 questions since Thursday. So they've spent 1,209 hours using it, okay? Cool facts too, in math, those are the skills, in ELA, these are the skills that we have mastered but are also nearing proficiency. It won't allow them to kick out of that skill until they master it. So these are the ones that we are proficient in, and getting, if they're proficient, they're getting ready to master it. But it keeps them there and continues to give them material until they master it. We can also then look at all of the different grade levels. You can see there our freshmen are using it more than any other grade, and that's because they are involved in all of the courses that we are utilizing this in. So the total number of questions, they're doing 33,000 in one grade level, or in one of the divisions, 43,000 and 16,000. So pretty cool statistics to look at. We're using it, even though we've had it open for a month, we're utilizing it, and it's making a difference. They are growing. So we have, I think that's the last slide. Oh, nope. The last thing that we'll talk about here in just a second, we're going to test 3 times just like iReady does. We test in the fall, we test in December, and then we also test again in May so that we can see growth, which will be interesting once we get those growth scores from.
Yeah, and we're even
beginning to
tying
middle.
in the December one is gonna tie to the final as well. So there's something for them to work for, because it's gonna count towards their final. At the end, we have to decide, when we do that in May, whether we're gonna tie it in or not, but, they have a little more ownership when it's tied to that final. So we're looking forward to see, the growth that we get in December.
Yeah. So student buy-in is what's really important, because unfortunately, high school students can choose to take it seriously or not. And so one of the greatest things is the conversations I'm able to have with students now that are using it and saying, I probably should have taken that test a little more seriously. I said, yeah, you probably should have. But they have a chance to. So that's what's great, is they're not held where they're at. They can take this next growth test. But they're seeing a gain of instruction, a gain of knowledge, because they're doing the iReady and they're learning from that, and they are enjoying that they can progress and master. We also, like Mr. Heinzer said, are figuring out how to attach grades to this in some way to show that they are growing and that they are participating and utilizing it. And then we have our teachers and our student council working together to form kind of a rewards committee. So those students that are growing and are taking this seriously can be rewarded in some way to show that they are making progress. Some of those ideas are just, having movies and going bowling and some prizes, but also intrinsically that you're learning. But those are some of the things that we're doing with IXL and NWA.
Will we be able to get this report, I'm assuming, so that we can kind of look through that data and those numbers a little bit more closely?
You just tell me what you want and I'll get it for you.
And
You
those,
bet.
I'm assuming those 3 categories were science, math, and English, where they showed the kind of beaker and the other
Yes.
things in the previous slide, where you were talking about the amount of questions through
Yes,
there?
the top is math, and
That's what
then
I
we
figured.
have ELA is the
Okay.
book, and that includes the reading as well as the language usage, and then the bottom is the science. Yeah.
So I'm a classroom teacher, let's say. Sorry, I'm just not grasping some of the concept here.
Yeah.
How does this touch on what I do in the classroom?
So if the lesson you're teaching is a certain standard, I can go in and research that standard, and I can pull up lessons and activities
For the students who
for the
are
students to
struggling.
do, not even for struggling, just to use that day. So I can teach the lesson, and then I can have this be supplemental, or it can be the actual homework or the assignment that they're going to do.
So if I'm a teacher and I want something different, or what like my approach for this group is just not clicking, I can go over to IXL, right?
Yeah.
And find a new approach. Have I got it? Have I
Yeah.
understood? Okay, cool.
Yes, so I can either use a whole class, or if most of my class gets it and I have a few students who aren't getting it, I can do a small group, have them watch this. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's an activity, sometimes it's an example. And so they can do that, and then I can remediate with them immediately after that, and then we can move on to.
Our teachers have done a great job of talking with the kids as well, because they've either pulled them up individually or as groups, let them know, here's where you are, here's where your score is, this is where we need to go. And they've done it with every kid with every test. So, yeah, hopefully, that also gives them more ownership in it.
Yeah, and it seems like to the extent that it's situating this conversation even with students in terms of standards, rather than just a score, or rather, we're still talking about scores, but we're talking about something that's more focused here with this concept, with this standard, with this issue. We need a little bit more work on that.
Yes.
Right.
So that seems more productive.
We feel it is.
Well, and they get to feel success because they get to master the skill.
That thing right
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
And then they can move on.
And
So-
IXL adjusts as it goes. If they're not getting something right, it will back it up for them a little bit and then move forward again.
Okay.
If they're getting everything right, it'll challenge them more and more.
Good.
So, yeah.
I always hate to see, if, you know, I never liked being told that I had to teach a certain way in the classroom, right? And I fought really hard for all the adjuncts under me to be able to have their own say in their curriculum. Here we have the standards, how you get there, how you get your students there is up to you. It sounds like this is not that at all, and it's helpful.
It looks teacher-friendly.
Yeah,
It looks
yeah.
teacher-friendly is what, was usually what I'm concerned about.
It also
Yeah.
gives you some more concrete tools as you all are, the ICs are meeting with teachers and trying to progress them professionally as far as their development in classroom management and teaching. Then it gives you some more tools that they can draw from, and even tools they can draw from if you happen to be absent, or, gosh, Callie was sick today and she was gonna come help me teach this lesson, but you can ship that right on to them and they can still see that.
Now, lest it be all sunshine and rainbows, though, I mean, the truth comes when we see how this aligns with, say, like, our standardized testing.
Absolutely.
And with, you know, our own assessments, right? So are we actually getting there? Yeah, this tells us we're getting there, but according to our in-house, you know, I know the science department has historically done some assessing, you know, in and of it for itself. How is this, you know, does progress here map to progress tracked elsewhere?
And I think we will know that
We'll know
more
that later.
at the end
You
of
just started.
December, once we have our second growth point and we can compare finals as well.
This is the first
So
year.
that'll be a great,
Yeah.
this is the first
First-
onset test.
okay.
And so then, once we have that.
And you may
we'll
not
be
even
able
know
to
by
look at those.
December, right? You may
And we
need
may not,
a little
yes.
bit more, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of, not a lot, I don't know, but there's growing pains, right?
There, absolutely. Well, and part of the growing pains was, we're utilizing our out time a lot for this.
Right.
And them having to work during out time has been a struggle a little bit, but it's gotten a lot better. It really has. Because, you know, it is a true RTI time. It's not,
Yeah,
you know, meeting time. It's not, you know, we're utilizing the period.
well, good. Yeah,
Sounds good.
cool, all right. It's nice.
Thank you, thank you all. We will next prepare for Mr. Pettit's superintendent report as he moves that way. Thank you for all the data. Can't wait to see it in the spring again.
Need a bigger screen or bigger letters for us old guys down here.
Yeah,
So
gotta get you guys
thank you
handouts back
to
there.
Callie and the other instructional coaches and our principals. This kind of speaks back to so many things that we're going to talk about in my presentation tonight, but we've done a lot of work as a district, and that isn't just like flipping a switch. There's still really a lot of groundwork and building blocks being laid, and they've done a really nice job of embedding things like this, adjusting OWL time, doing what they need to do with that, and then having conversations with our new evaluation system, teachers rather, plural, and talking about, you know, what does the data say and what are the implications specific in your classroom, and setting goals that I think is really powerful. It makes everything we're doing as a district with that big umbrella personal in each classroom where it really matters. So thanks to them and their time presenting tonight. So tonight I'm going to go through some things, and I'm going to go fast. Please, as a board, feel free to pause me. But for the sake of your time, I also want to move along. Some of this is kind of for the public. Some of it's for us as a board to just stop and reflect a little bit. Last month, ideally, I would have liked to have had a financial recap, so I'm going to incorporate that here too and get into some of our finances. I want to try and do that quarterly. And then just a few things of what's going on around the district. So that said, I'll just get to it if I can. Okay. That might be it. Might be the on button. That's probably it. Thank you, Callie. Okay, so first thing that's new this year going on just took place in the October Professional Development Day. We implemented the Superintendent's Advisory Committee. It actually met here where we're meeting tonight, and we brought forward representatives from each group for the first time, and it was just an opportunity for whether I am a teacher, a custodian, a bus driver, et cetera, what are things that I'm seeing around the district that maybe could be better. And I think that's really valuable when there's as much going on as we've been taking on as a district, to just let people have a voice and tell us the things that we overlooked and be willing to kind of clean off the mirror and take a look at it. So it was really productive. We're going to try to meet 3 times this year. I've committed to that we will at least meet once each semester, with the next one scheduled in January, and I hope to have one towards the end of the year. One of the things that came up was our health benefits being explored, our insurance, our dental, our vision, et cetera. It's something that as a district we've been talking about and looking at, and it was an opportunity to share some information in the early brainstorming stages and let that committee go back and share it with the groups that they represent. So I like that collaboration and that transparency for our staff, and I'm hopeful to see good things come of that in the future. And that's one of the first things we utilized SAC to say, okay, let's organize, let's get MSTA, CTA, NEA brought in like before, and then let's have some subcommittee of other teachers as well. So that's how we're gonna try to move forward. I'm sure it won't be perfect in every way, but the intentions are good, and it was a productive time that we spent. Lunch fee collections, this is something we discussed last month. I don't know if I've explained it as well as I should to the public. It is not up for a vote tonight. It's here in the second reading. I've been doing a little homework on this. I'm going to try to share some of that with you. But I think the first blanket thing that I want to say for the public that I don't know if I have is post-COVID, a lot of districts are seeing a real huge swell in their unpaid student services debt, specific to lunch and breakfast. And 2018 was the last time that public school in Marshall actually charged for meals for students who didn't qualify for any reduced or free rates. And what we have right now as a district in Marshall is $60,000 in unpaid student lunch and breakfast accounts. That is all from last year that accrued, so we're pacing ourselves at $60,000+ a year in unpaid lunches. It's a tough conversation to have, and it's not a fun one, because the first thing we don't ever want to do is not feed our students when they're hungry and they're at school. So what this policy does not do is say that we will ever stop that or give an alternative meal. We will keep feeding kiddos that get in line and are hungry. What it is looking at is what are other districts doing post-COVID, and what we have been finding is that districts are working on or already have adopted debt collection policies. So this proposal is that we consider doing this for next school year, give us time to communicate and educate our families, help them to understand the ways that we can help them. We've sent out 2 letters so far. It has QR codes that they can scan to help them get to the forms that you can fill out for free and reduced. We're down about 20% of what free and reduced was prior to COVID. I don't know that the demographics of our community have changed a lot, but what I believe has changed is that we got to a point in time where everybody was able to eat lunch and breakfast free, and getting back to the mindset that if we want to qualify for that, we need to apply and try to qualify according to the standards. So we've sent out those letters. We've told them that we're talking with the Board of Education about this policy, and then we've explained if you can fill this out, we will offer you assistance. And we're sort of getting a sense of the reaction to that. And we are getting some phone calls with people saying, you know, I don't know that I'll qualify, but would we be able to do a payment plan, things of that nature. And we're taking those conversations into account and figuring out what our final policy is. My concern as a district, unfortunately, is that I would love for everyone to eat for free, but it's just a bigger decision than Marshall Public Schools as we're navigating our finances, the fiscal cliff that we're still facing next year. We can't afford $60,000+ a year to be uncollected very easily. That's pretty much a classroom teacher. And I think overall you would see that if we just tried to forgive it somehow each year, it probably wouldn't get smaller, it would probably get bigger, just because other parents would say, well, if it's going to be free, it's going to be free. So it's something we really have to consider. I'm open to all the questions and discussions on this. I want the public to hear about this so that I can hear from them more. We've gotten some response to those letters, but not as much as I would have hoped, considering the gravity of the policy we're considering here. But I do think as a district, we've got to think about how we avoid $60,000+ a year. And each year those prices go up, the amount won't get smaller. Any questions about that?
I have a question. How much is your lunch and breakfast?
Hold on just a second. You'll need to be recognized by the board president.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Pettit, would you like to answer that question?
I don't know with certainty what it is right now. I can't recall what it is for the lunch amount, but is it even $3 yet for lunch? I don't know if it's quite $3.
I was going to say, I thought it was $1.80 for something breakfast, or something, $1.15 for breakfast, and $2 something for lunch when we first voted on that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I waited.
I tell you, we could.
$2.75, you think? My recollection is lunch is under $3 and breakfast is around $2, but I just can't remember exactly.
We can get you another number for that
Yeah.
in the future.
My other question about ratings on rules are rules.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've discussed a little bit as a Board of Education our reserves. So I've done some homework on that. I'll share with you tonight what we found. It was surprising to me what we found, but I had an online meeting with MOSIP, where the district's invested its general funds for a long time, its reserves, and talked to them about whether we should or should not think about investing some more, especially with us going into a financial cliff year next year. Any returns we can get at a greater yield would be ideal. What I found was, first of all, that our local bank, Exchange Bank, is still doing a phenomenal job in the market being what it is. Some of that's beyond their control. I wouldn't say that to say that if it were bad, it's their fault, but it happens to be really good. 6.25% is what we're currently getting on our investments with Exchange Bank. If we were to lock in our reserve amounts with one of those other opportunities we have out there, about 5.56 or 5.63 would be the best we could get with the length of the term that we're looking at. So I think that our money is best to stay where it is for now until the time, probably not, and I think sooner or later that'll come as the market fluctuates. But I have asked Exchange Bank to start giving me monthly updates. They set those rates once a month, and I think they have to stay 0.58% above the T-bill, roughly, which is basically what the rate is that gets set for them. So first of each month, I'll know if that rate's changing significantly, and I would say that I'll come to you if something changes where we might have a better return on our investment. Land exchange, we presented this in our last regular meeting. The board has been working very hard and had a lot of special meetings, so it's all probably running together for you. But last time we had a regular meeting, we discussed a land exchange for one of the schools that we're going to vacate, very likely Eastwood, for the acreage out near the Hab Center where the new school is going to be built. We have a first draft agreement between the city and the school district, and we're hopeful to get something to the board for a vote. I would hope around the first of the year. That might be idealistic, but it's what I'm hoping for and we're pushing for. It still involves, like I said, exchanging Eastwood for that acreage at the former Hab Center. There are details that will develop around that, I'm sure, with regard to is it standing, is it not standing at the time of the transfer. But ultimately, it has been written up in first draft form. And I think the city council is looking forward to just hearing the board's feelings of that as they see it in writing, and if there's a major change of course that you see in the near future. If not, I look for that to keep moving forward as we're pretty well down that road of negotiation. I think it'll be a good opportunity for the school district. It's about potentially up to 175 acres in that exchange, if it all comes to fruition that way. So we'll see when it all actually gets surveyed if we get that far, but I feel very optimistic about it. This is just an update in general terms. This building we're in, Tom Butterfield ECC, has been open to the public. This is kind of left over from some of the things I've been sharing with the public. They've really been responding well, continuing to respond well at public engagements. We now have the social work team, has the food pantry up and going, showers and laundry. The storage is just extensive with all those former rooms down there. We have a lot going on. And we even have rooms now for youth temporarily placed with DFS. We're now letting them out to those students in need with DFS's care once in a while. And I believe in addition to the youth wrestling, we've recently added middle school wrestling is using our gym here too. I know our athletics could take a couple more gyms if they could find them, so that's been a really good thing. Construction of the new building. We have a lot of good folks here tonight being entertained with these presentations as they prepare to talk about the finances behind that. All of these special meetings that the board has had, we've had 3 special meetings in just the last month and a half or so approximately to prepare for tonight. I think they have some really great news to tell you, but in short, after passing that levy, we're preparing to build this new school. It's a rendition of it there, a poor picture at that, but that's my fault. And obviously we've closed Southeast, sold it and deposited the money from Southeast, as Jack pointed out. And those staff and students have been absorbed into other buildings, which is going to get into some of the financial update. But before I go there, I want to talk about safety and security district-wide. That is a look at your door locking mechanisms that are installed district-wide. They bolt through the door and then screw into the metal framework. It's a fairly simple design, but now when our emergency plans say to shelter and lock yourself in place, we're actually able to do that in classrooms. We've added that additional, with the board's vote and support, that additional 0.5 or half part-time SRO, school resource officer. The safety coordinator has been really hard at work. with a lot of things going on, which includes revamping emergency plans district-wide. That's been underway comprehensively. Greg Woodring's just finding all kinds of things as he turns over the stones that could be better, that need to be reworked. He started having meetings with emergency personnel. The first one is already done, and the more he uncovers, the more he discovers we have a lot more groundwork, like I started out talking about tonight. We've got a lot to do to get those things aligned, and he still plans to move towards a committee, a community emergency personnel and district committee, and he has a first draft of the emergency plans skeletally put together, but he's discovered things like the schematics, where are the fire alarms, et cetera, where are the fire extinguishers. As he met with emergency personnel, we found we had a lot more work to do. So he's doing very good work, and I'm excited about what he's doing. The doors that we talked about so much in the levee, the glass doors you can see in the center bottom there with single pane glass. This is one of the projects that we're undertaking that we're proud of. When Insight Design started looking at new doors being installed at Beaker Middle School, it was upwards of $800,000 to do that. I met with our Saline County Career Center director, Mr. Wilcoxon, and he introduced me to our building traits program, which I hadn't had a chance last year in all the election to really get in there and see everything that they're doing. As I met with them, we came up with this idea collectively, and they have started doing what you see on the far right, the larger image. They're creating a nice sustainable plywood and trim, having the students construct those and install them. They're doing about 10 at a time. It's going to cost about $5,000, and the students are getting to be a part of it. And that'll allow the doors to be locked and the glass to be covered, but you're required to be able to see into the room still. And you can do that by leaving one square open. The square is a little high, but that keeps a person from reaching through and opening the door.
Where are they building them out of?
It's sustainable. I want to call it marine grade, but that isn't accurate. But it's a really strong industrial plywood, like marine grade, that it's sustainable and not treated.
It's a solid plywood sheet. It's not like a particle board sheet.
Yeah, it's
More like a
3/4 inch, I
cabinet
believe.
grade or something like that.
And then they're doing a nice job of trimming it out so it doesn't have those rough edges. And,
Yeah, it looks good.
looks nice.
Do we have any in yet?
We have several in. If you go to Beaker, there's some right near the front entrance that have already been installed. I haven't been to see if we've accomplished an entire floor yet or not, but I'm seeing them on the main floor where the offices are.
The library's got them, their doors are all done. They look really nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, most of the sixth grade hall that I walked around in had them in there, so.
I love the fact that we're doing it. That's nice.
There is a shatterproof safety film that we have got a soft bid on. We want to just get a rough idea how expensive is that, because even though we're building a new school that can have those components, we've got other schools to think about too. So we got our first soft bid back. We're preparing for RFPs to send out and get multiple companies. But long and the short, what it does, it isn't quote unquote bulletproof, but it's shatterproof. It slows a person down from getting in. And I think with the safety grant that we got, we're going to have a chance to be able to install and do that. They actually install it from the inside and seal it in place, and it's guaranteed for X number of years, and it's just like a car windshield where you can't just break it out into little pieces and you can't break it out easily. Doesn't mean it can't come out, but it slows an intruder down. So some of the implications of that, and I share this, and I should have made this bigger. I think that was a conversion from Google. I'm sorry guys, I tried to stay 24 font, but this one was too big to not convert to Google. So I'll give you the summary of what all that means, and this is a brag not just on any one person, but all of this Board of Education and all the decision makers in the last 2 years. If you look at all the things that have been done, decisions made, total annual savings before that levy reassessment, I'm not counting, that's about 1.3 million, and one-time savings of about 1.6 million in funds that were reallocated. They were going to go somewhere, they've been reallocated now. I can't say that, I can't say in clear translation that you've literally just recouped that much money. You've recouped about $1.3 million though, and our goal was 2, so I'm proud of that. Obviously the levy was a huge deal for Marshall Public Schools and the community. A lot of people are still really excited about that. I'm still really proud of all of you guys and all these meetings that you had and all the things it took to get that done. But that's gonna provide a large amount of money, and that isn't what I'm talking about when I talk about the money we've saved. But it is gonna create the building spot that you see there with the large X, the inner loop as we're calling it here locally. We just wanna make sure people understand what we're talking about. The big circle kind of looks like a track next to Spain, however the nearest school's gonna go. And this image also shows you a nice view of what the land that we're trying to exchange for Eastwood is. and there is quite a bit of ground out there. These structures are something that we're gonna have to talk about soon in our financing. I share what we've saved because we're gonna have to spend, and we're gonna have to take these buildings down. That's gonna be expensive. The Tudor House, the 2 warehouses, and someday down the road, we might have a transportation hub, but I don't think that's in the near future. There's probably many phases away from where we are. So other remaining sites to close, Eastwood, Benton, Northwest, a lot to talk about there in the future, and there will be cost savings to discuss there too. I do want to update you that we have acquired the railroad easement near Eastwood. That is done, recorded, we have the deed for it, and so that's already saved us somewhere around $14,000 in leases. We didn't have to pay for that. It was a $24,000 purchase. And the last thing, I'm not going to get into the details, Mr. Ranke is going to discuss this because I tip my hat to him and all the work he did on this. But we have $3.3 million in energy savings that's being wrapped up into this construction we're doing, allowing us to do work at other locations. In combined total, you all have made decisions that have saved the district over $6 million in the last 2 years, redirecting a lot of funds and making a lot of change and a lot of work for our educators who I think have responded very well and taken it on in a way that I'm proud of. So that is all I have. If you have no questions for me, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Jakes to discuss our recent MSBA annual conference, if he has anything he'd like to share.
Last weekend was the annual MSBA conference. That's the Missouri State School Board Association Conference. Mrs. Green, Matt, myself, and Aaron all participated there, as well as Mr. Rinke, Mr. Pettit, and Denise also went to a workshop as well on board secretaries. So I have a little excerpt from Amy that she sent me. It says, thank you for affording me the opportunity to attend the MSBA annual conference. I was able to grow in my understanding of how policies and procedures are enacted at a state and local level. She watched the delegate assembly firsthand, of which Aaron participated as our delegate to that assembly. She heard our practices on how potentially collaborative efforts with stakeholders and to create the highest level of transparency about school culture and ways to communicate that to students and families. She received better understanding of parliamentary procedures and a refresher on district budgeting as it pertained to state and federal laws. We've been trying to work to do a lot of education of ourselves as a board. We've had a couple of special meetings with Dr. Henson most recently, where we went over a budget workshop for a couple of hours last week. I know Harry gleaned quite a bit from that as well, and of course Mr. Lenz as well. So, and so we've worked very hard at our education levels. Aaron, I'll let you speak towards anything you'd like to say about the conference or the delegate assembly that you went to.
Oh no, the delegate assembly this time around was very brief compared to last year. It was a knockdown drag out about school funding. This time around, it was mostly a matter of saying yes to advocacy positions related to, say, like getting school funding from various kinds of new recreational taxes in the state of Missouri. You may or may not understand what I mean with that. But it was all very straightforward, so nothing much to report. Next year, though, I think Ms. Green would do well to maybe be the delegate. She seemed to enjoy the process. If she's commenting on learning about parliamentary procedure, that's where she did. That's where she learned it. So.
Matt?
I enjoy the breakout sessions, except for the one we sat through together. That one was more kind of scary, threat assessment, but just hearing different boards and the way different districts attack different things. Last year it was connecting with your community, which I knew we had, the tax levy was going to be coming up, so we sat through that and got some good ideas from that. So it's always good to hear different ideas from different people that are doing the same thing you are, just in a different light. So.
I attended a 4-hour president's workshop. So I attended an hour and a half of parliamentary procedure, and then I went for another hour and a half of it as well with Mrs. Green. She was very interested in that, so I sat through that with her as well. I sat through 2 sessions on school safety, one of which was threat assessment with Matt. Another one was safety and security within our schools. And then I sat through one on superintendent evaluation. That is a very important thing for us as a board to be able to evaluate our only employee, which is the superintendent as a board. We do sign contracts for everybody else, but that is the only employee that we govern and work with directly. So, learning how we should do that process maybe a little better than how we had before. So, since I've been on the board in the last 6 years, this is the most people that we've taken to the conference together, and it shows, I think, the solidarity we have as a board of moving ourselves forward, of thinking about the district in a forward direction, of thinking about things in cost-conscious ways and learning best practices that we can take back. As Mr. Pettit was speaking, I remembered, I've got this other thing to give to Mr. Rinke about, some glass films, and from another company of a gentleman that I talked to for about an hour and a half in the lobby at the hotel about those things. So it gives us a great chance to network, see what other districts are doing, see what we can bring back and use in our district, and see what we've heard somebody try that isn't going to work at all. So as we try to move this district forward, we also are educating ourselves and moving forward in those ways. So I also today sat on the Leadership Development Committee for the region. I'm the Region 5 delegate for the Leadership Development Committee with the MSBA group overall. And we talked a lot about how board member training is going to look for our constituents as we got to go forward, and what that's going to be, how we can make that a little bit easier for people. We all have lives, and we get paid a whole lot of money to do this job.
I want to raise.
We will triple Harry's salary. I'll make a motion that we do that. He will go from 0 to 0.00. So, but also the way that we submit things, the way that, maybe some virtual trainings can be offered to us. I've also got a list of other events that'll be going on over the next 6 months that I'm going to give to the rest of the members as well this evening. So, but we had a good informational conference and learning some things, and also learning a little bit about each other and spending some time together where we can talk about some other issues in smaller groups. Not quorum groups, smaller groups, sunshine law people that were not around. So we did not have groups of 4 or more. So, but moving along, I will move down to the assistant superintendent report, and thank you for the few minutes.
I'd like to say thank you to our board member leadership for putting in all that time to keep doing the good job that you guys are doing. Keep it up, Brian. It's the last compliment for today.
Breakfast is $1.15 and lunch is $2.45.
Okay.
I was right on one number and 30 cents off on the other. And extra milk is 40 cents as well, just for your numbers there. So, thank you to our secretary who just combed back through the stacks of the motions to find out the OPA contract that we voted on a few months ago. So, Mr. Rinke.
Thank you. I appreciate Mr. Pettit's report tonight. I thought that was really good. We got a lot going on throughout the district. Before I get started too, I know we stand up here a lot of times and we're talking about facilities and levies and COPs and everything. But truly the main goal is our student achievement throughout the whole district. So I really appreciate what our instructional coaches are doing, Mr. Kobe, and all of our administration and teachers. I think they got a lot of great things going on with the iReady, the IXL, the NWEA as measuring tools, and they put a lot of work into that, so I truly appreciate the work you guys are doing too. So getting started, we have still a lot to go through with this meeting, and mainly my report tonight is just for the public, and I kind of wanted just to recap what we have done with the Navitas contract or our project, what we're going to do, recap I still have some of the rough numbers that kind of got a little bit better with the Raymond James and all the financing. So I'll just go over those real quick in rough numbers. And so if you have any questions, Wesley, it's not working.
I turned it off again.
You guys trying to save that battery life, we appreciate it.
Just trying to, gotta get the tradition now.
So if you have any questions, feel free to stop, or I'll have some time at the end here. So some happenings, want to recap our Navitas energy audit and contracted work that we're going to move forward with. I also want to touch on our Nabholz local contractor summit that is coming up. So first of all, our Navitas project. And it's going to be real tricky because we talked about this before, Nabholz and Navitas and which one's which. So But so we've all seen this before. This was our project summary from Navitas for our energy savings. And the main goal was when we passed the levy to be able to go through this and be able to expand basically our levy capacity, get some projects done throughout the district and our facilities, and be able to pay for that with our energy savings. So when we go down through the buildings, and of course we're not going to, the buildings in the plan to get rid of, we're not going to do or put anything into those buildings. So we were going to focus, number one, on the high school. And of course, after the last year, we finished up all the work, mainly in the classroom section. Off of the fire, we wanted to finish off the rest of the building, and so this was a good chance for us to do that. So projects we're moving forward with this summer in the high school, we will take all by the gym and the commons, and the athletic part there in the foyer. We will finish off replacing the LED fixtures replacement. We'll finish off ceiling grid. We'll do the entire rest of the building to match the work we've already done. We'll move forward with retro commissioning all the HVAC units, put in a building automation system, and that's basically where you're talking about the automatic lights, and they can go through and they can actually detail when we're using energy, what we're using energy, and how to become more efficient. And of course, weatherization. And the weatherization is looking at doors. We're not replacing any windows, but just making sure all the drafts aren't coming in. Some of the things out of the audit that they said we probably need to address at some point, and we're going to put in our long-range facility plans. The number one, the big thing, was the HVAC units on top, and I know we had some discussion on that. That does not need to wait for Navitas or whatever. We can look at those projects moving forward. But the outside canopy soffit, that really needs to be replaced eventually. The windows need to be replaced. If you actually look in the, I guess it's called the foyer there, that's in pretty rough shape that we need to look at and, move forward with eventually. And some of the doors there, and then also looking at some water efficiency measures. We need to eventually, throughout the district, not only the high school, you'll see that in most of our buildings, look on how to improve that. So that's the work we're going to do at the high school. The middle school, we're going to move forward. Again, we're going to convert over the LED lamp replacement. Not all fixtures, but we'll convert them into the LEDs. Finish off we'll do the ceiling grid replacement in Beaker. And of course the retro commissioning, the building automation system, and weatherization. Some things we're going to put on hold for Beaker, just kind of because we couldn't fit it all in. That will eventually need to be done. The HVAC fan coil replacement, I know we put chillers in, but the units in the rooms need to be addressed, where all that stuff goes. So we'll have to look at that. We'll eventually have to address the roof. That does have some leaks in it. Window replacement, and of course water efficiency. The Saline County Career Center. Okay, this is where a big bulk of our project is going. That building, I think we saw some pictures. That was built in was it the 60s? And a lot of the HVAC and a lot of the electricity is still original from the 60s, as you guys saw. So we are going to go ahead with the projects in the Career Center, the LED light fixtures, the ceiling grid replacement. We are going to do a complete HVAC replacement of that, and all new units, all new, whole new system in there. That's going to be the big thing. That is the one that will probably extend out of this summer, just because getting all the parts in. That in the electrical service and panel replacement, that'll be the second thing that they're going to have to get parts in. A lot of those parts, there was a long lead time. So hopefully we can get those done as soon as possible. They're going to go ahead and since they're doing the ceiling too in the Career Center and so much HVAC, we'll put all new supply returns and exhaust grills in. And of course the automation system and the weatherization for the Career Center. And then we'll put in our long-range facility plan to look at our plumbing and water efficiency matters. The IA building, the building right behind there, it's going to have the LED replacement, retro commissioning, building automation system, and weatherization. And we'll look at water efficiency matters later. Tom Butterfield, projects we're moving forward with in this building, and this building's it's really good shape, but we're going to go ahead and put the LED lamp replacement in. And then, of course, they're going to look at all of our HVAC units, retro commissioning, building automation system, and weatherization. And then on our long range for this building, it would probably be nice sometime to put some sort of HVAC air conditioning unit in that gymnasium, especially if we start holding some practices and different things there, and water efficiency measures. So these were the rough numbers. Basically, we're looking at that our total savings, and that's how we're going to pay for a lot of this through our levy capacity. So over the next 15 years, it's about $3.8 million of total savings. The total project cost was around 4.6, so it's about $800,000 that we're going to come up with. But a lot of this is out of that energy savings, and that is guaranteed energy savings from Navitas. So they're being very, and I'm not going to say they're going to go over, but they're being very conservative with their numbers. So hopefully we can get a bigger savings as we go on. Does anybody have any questions on all that? I think we really discussed a lot of that.
Just for the public, can you explain what retro commissioning is?
It's basically where they're going to go into our units, and they'll go through them all, and they'll clean everything up. They'll clean up the, and I'm not an HVAC guy, so, but they'll go through, take care of the belts, check all the motors, you know, and just basically give everything a tune-up. And if they find anything wrong with it, they're going to go ahead and replace it, and then, you know, just make it run right and make it run more efficient.
David, did they say something about their automation helps them see what's not efficient or something? Was that the connection with how some of that comes to pass?
Yes, so with the automation, they're able to actually keep track basically 24 hours a day of where we're using our electricity, how we're using our electricity. You know, when the kids are here, of course, we're going to have to use the electricity, you know. But, you know, on the weekends, maybe they're catching something when nobody's in the building, and maybe we should have, you know, done this different, or the HVAC, we don't need it at 76 degrees, it can drop down, you know, on a Saturday and Sunday, and so have some different, they start keeping track, and they actually do that for I believe 2 or 3 years, and they really get a detailed report to where we can figure out where we can do a better job to be more efficient, if that makes sense. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right, any questions on that? The second thing I had here is just for the community to know. Of course, this is related to the new building that Nabholz is going to build for us. So that we're going to have a contractor summit, and this will be on November 16th from 1:30 to 2:30. I think we get a lot of questions, and especially from the, you know, anybody in the community. If they run a contracting business or do any type of work, HVAC, roofing, you know, you name it, concrete, and they're like, well, how would I bid on that job? This is a great time to come. You'll meet with Mitchell from Nabholz, and that are building the building, and he'll be able to answer any questions. And maybe people are like, well, I'm not sure I should bid on it. I don't know if I can handle it. If you have any questions, this is the time to come. So that is his email address. I do have flyers. This is also up on our website. So if you would want to go to our website, I believe it's on the pretty close to the front page. I think that's still on there. And then you can click and get the flyer. So, and then that should be a good time to answer any questions. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. The only other thing I wanted to say too, like Mr. Pettit had the Superintendent's Advisory Committee meeting, I also had a classified staff committee meeting today. That went very well, so we're continuing that. A lot of great suggestions came out of that, a lot of good discussion. It's set up just for any concerns or just to help that communication. So hopefully I'll be able to get a lot of that put together and bring back to the board in the next couple of months. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rinke. Next, we will have a conversation about dedication of the gym. If I could have A.D. Kelly Callandine, Wick Jacoby from the Alumni Wrestling Association, and Mr. Mike Michaels, tapping people on the shoulder on his way up, A.D. from Missouri Valley College.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having us up here. I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm going to let these guys kind of speak more on it, and I can help so we can all answer some questions at the end. But, we're always looking to recognize and support all the good people who have done good things for us. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to recognize somebody who did a lot of good things for us through his time here. And so I'll let these guys kind of go on. Let Wick start.
Okay, hello, I'm Wick Jacoby. Some of you may know my boss. She works in the office right around the corner. I'm here representing the Marshall High School Wrestling Alumni Club, or Marshall Wrestling Alumni Club. Some of you may have heard of us. We're a nonprofit organization with the sole purpose of spreading the benefits of the sport of wrestling through our community, from the youth on up through the high school. So we've been able to do a lot of cool things. New mats, wrestling room renovations. We pay for kids' tournaments and a lot of great things to the support of our members. A few months ago, the idea was floated by me about the possibility of renaming the high school gym after Mr. Jim Hargrave. Jim Hargrave was not our first wrestling coach. I think our very first coach was Mr. Cecil Naylor, but our first real wrestling coach was Jim Hargrave. Jim graduated from Chillicothe High School in 1960. He ended up attending Missouri Valley College and graduating in 1964. He was on the football team. He was senior class president, homecoming chairman, and graduated summa cum laude. In 1965, Marshall was fortunate enough to have Coach Hargrave join our staff in the Marshall School District. Not only was he a good teacher and a good person, he was an excellent wrestling coach. He coached from 1969 through 1980, racking up a record of 116, 19, and 6. He won 2 state titles and finished in the top 10 several times. He coached 9 state champions and had 45 state placers. He was selected the small class coach of the year in 78 and 79. He was inducted into the Missouri Wrestling Hall of Fame in 1988. He was our inaugural inductee into the Marshall Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2014. He was inducted into the Missouri Valley College Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2016, and on October 22nd of this year, he was elected into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. So, Lifetime Achievement Award for that. I don't think I can emphasize what an impact this guy's had on wrestlers. Those are just some of his stats. And for a little bit about the man, I invited Coach Mockholtz, who wrestled under Coach Hargrave. So I'm going to turn it over to him to tell a little bit about the man.
Sure. Mike Mockholtz at Missouri Valley College, graduated Marshall High School. I won't say when, it was a long time ago. But I did have the fortune of wrestling for Coach Hargraves and another gentleman sitting over here on the end of the bench, Harry Carroll. I want to say Coach Hargraves was an integral part of of Marshall High School, certainly through 70s, 80s, a very, very strong, just positive personality. As good of a coach as Coach Hargraves was, he was a better teacher. A very solid teacher. Back in those days, we had a lot of the great instructors in our district, and he was one of the best of all of them. His teachings are sprinkled throughout this community and all over this state, and I would dare say the country. Without him, his ideals, his integrity, his just ability to just generate interest. You know, Marshall High School, I do not believe would have had the successes that we, and I see Mr. Hart or Mr. Heinzler sitting out here too, that we all would have been able or would have been a part of. He also was the assistant football coach. Just a little background, Coach Hargraves never wrestled. He was a football coach. He never wrestled, and Cecil Naylor said, I remember this story I'll keep it very brief, but Cecil went to him, and Cecil started the program. He said, we need a wrestling coach, and Jim, you're going to do it. And he goes, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never wrestled. And he says, but you know how to motivate kids, you're going to do this. And very fortunate that he did. Under him, you just spoke about the meeting we just had, or the Hall of Fame induction. There were 40 individuals at that, ranging from his first state champion to some folks that never got a chance to wrestle for him, you know, in today's time. So very proud to see that support, wholeheartedly agree with the opportunity to rename that building or that gym. There's only been 2 state championships here, and he owns both of them. So appreciate it.
Good job,
So
Mike.
just to add a little bit, you know, I've kind of reached out to the community, especially on a lot of people, because we did a major gym renovation, you know, a few years ago, and everybody that I've reached out to, I've had plenty of conversation. I've heard nothing but positive support from it. Everybody's excited. I think talking to Coach Hargrave as well, very humbled in that, you know, that we would even, you know, consider this for him. So just those conversations that I've had, you know, good a feeling as I can for something, you know, that's so important. It's obviously something that will be lasting, you know, I said, in our community. And I'm a big believer, I kind of spoke about this before, is we celebrate people, and the more we can celebrate them while they're here with us, themselves and their family, all those things, I think it's very important. You know, sometimes on a lot of these legacy things, on a lot of things across the world, you know, it's always after the fact. And we have an opportunity to celebrate something that was so positive within our community, why he's still here with us, and his family can enjoy it. And so, if there's any more questions, or
Just want to clarify, or just make sure everyone understands, we're talking about naming a gym, not naming a court.
Yes.
We named the court the Kevin Hart Court, that will
Correct.
not change.
Correct.
What we're talking about is building and structure. So just want that
Yes.
clear as people start having conversations in the community, you understand that we're talking about 2 separate things. The basketball court itself will still stay named the same. The building where wrestling happens is the gym itself, and that's what we're talking about.
Yes, correct.
So what's the timeline?
Well, I mean, we do have, you know, like I have a home run timeline. We like to, you know, ideally unveil it in our home tournament, which is January 6th, so we can do the work over the Christmas break. It's a well-attended tournament. It's a tournament that he's always, it always comes to it. I've talked to him, he hadn't missed very many through the years, even after retirement. And it's our winter warming as well, so it's kind of a big celebration. So that would be kind of the home run timeline.
Our alumni club has an event that corresponds around the Marshall Tournament too, when we award our scholarship to a graduating senior, and as well as induct our Hall of Fame members. So he's always there. People that know Hargrave come because he's going to be there, and you can, if this were to proceed, you could guarantee a good attendance.
Yeah.
It would be large.
Yeah. Any questions?
No, sir?
What else do you need from us?
Approval.
I think approval is where we're at, so.
It's not technically a voting,
It's just first reading.
You want
it's
a
just a
motion?
first reading of this as it is. If we vote on this officially, or if we give you a nod in this in December, is that enough time for you to prepare to be ready for
Yes.
January?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll add it for something into our next meeting,
Do you
so.
anticipate that you would need anything from us?
Technically, we do
Other
not need
than
anything
a
other than the
blessing?
fact that it looks
Just a
like.
blessing, so that's all.
If,
that we need, so.
if anyone on the board has major objections to this, maybe that's where we should talk about that now.
Right.
And otherwise, then it's going to be kind of
I
a.
think we would want some kind of signage in the building
Yeah.
to recognize
Right.
this. So I don't know what kind of cost that would.
I don't know what it's gonna cost the Alumni
But
Association.
I think.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you're spot on. I think we'll go.
I figured you guys probably
Yeah.
would take care of it, but
And
of
I have
course,
talked with
we
some
will
people
too
as well in
so.
that realm, so I don't anticipate that to be an
I
issue.
mean-
And at this point in time, I don't anticipate seeing district funds being used. We have other outside sources where I've been making some efforts to, so, and not just me, but a lot of us have been making efforts, and so I don't see that as any hurdle obstacle at this moment. So it's just about the blessing and be able to go forward, so.
I was joking slightly because we've been so much to be so conscious of dollars these days, but of course, we would support anything going for our schools as we needed to, and I know the Alumni Association would be as well, so I'm sure we'll be able to work it out. I don't see any major objections or any objections really from the board, so I think you all probably can perceive a blessing.
No,
I was gonna say, if this isn't something we have to vote on, if nobody has a problem with it, we just.
I think
That's
if you,
why I was
I
saying
think,
no objection.
I might recommend that you guys just give us a chance to review our policy, make sure we're in compliance with it before the December meeting, because I don't know if Kelly has, but I have not read that particular policy, just
What
for
kind of
pleasure in
policy?
great depth.
Policy
You'll have a
regarding-
policy for renaming a
For
building.
naming the building.
Just the rename, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to make sure we do it above board and do it right.
Yeah.
All right.
Jim Hargrave was a good friend of mine. I tell you, one of the reasons why he was so successful, I walked on the campus, he said, "You used to wrestle? Get in the room. Get over here. Show me everything you know." And you were in the room at that time, I believe, Mike. And I spent 5 years in there with him till I moved on to other things. But he's a great man, just truly a great man.
Great deal of educators.
Yeah,
Came
motivator
from him.
and love kids like, you know.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. And Kelly, thanks for making it over from Meet the Owls tonight for winter sports tonight. I know that was going on. So my son's a senior, and it was the last one I was going to get to see, but I'm here with you all tonight. So
Me too.
maybe I'll push him into spring sport.
Thanks, Wick.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, we will go back to the business at hand, and speaking of business, we're going to talk with Raymond James. Dr. Markling, Dr. Reich, Ms. Miller are members of the team as they're going to present tonight. Looks like we had you sitting down a little too long, Dr. Reich.
Yeah, that and I need a hip replacement is probably part of my problem. Thank you. It's good to be with you again this evening. Mike Reich with Raymond James Public Finance, and you know my partner in crime over there, Dr. Alan Markley. And also, I'd like to introduce you to Megan Miller with Gilmore and Bell. She served as your bond counsel. And so I have good news to share with you this evening. In fact, Caleb, thank you for showing the $32 to $36 million number, because we did much better than that. Ultimately, you have a plan of finance in front of you, but I'm not going to go through that slide by slide. I'm just going to hit the highlights and then open it up for any questions that you may have. And of course, my colleagues are here to help me answer the questions as well. So I would be remiss if I didn't briefly review what got us to this point. First and foremost, you passed the largest tax increase in the district's history, the 99-cent tax levy increase that you passed in April. And that was really solid voter support. I think you were all happy to see that type of support for the school district, and that allowed us to move forward. So since then, you've worked with architects, you've worked with Navitas, the ends, Navitas and Navholz. You've done some facility assessments, and we've only been here for a part of what you've gone through, but you've done a lot of work as a board and as district leadership and to get to this point. In fact, I remember when Ellen and I first met with Caleb and David, and they were talking about the things that needed to happen in the school district, and I think Alan and I were trying to talk them out of some of the things that you've been able to accomplish. And I'm glad that Caleb and David took the challenge, and we're standing here today. So, so one of the things that we did as you're working through with the professional services team, we were running plans of finance in the background and keeping the district updated on that. One of the things that we do during that process is we get a S&P rating for the school district, which is basically like your credit score. The district was able to, and first, before I tell you what your rating is, I got to say Caleb and David helped you and represented the school district very well in that call. And S&P ultimately gave the district an independent credit rating of A, which is investment grade. And for this certificates of participation, they knock you down one level to A- because it's annual appropriation debt. So there's a little more risk associated with investors. You should be very proud of that A rating. It's a solid rating, and it's a testament to your leadership. And so congratulations on that. It also helped us. That strong rating helped us get bond insurance. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But that was that has proven to be a good thing. And so once we got the rating, Megan prepared your preliminary official statement. We got that rating and the POS out to investors. And then we also, the district was adamant that we involve local investors. And so very early on, we got a list of local investors, banks, local wealth management offices, and we continue to communicate throughout the process with them. And actually did get some participation locally, ultimately earlier today. And then, so let's talk a little bit about the market. And I've talked to a few of you about the market, and I apologize to Caleb and David. I've taken them on this roller coaster ride of emotions as we've seen a pretty volatile market from April until now. We were able to achieve favorable outcomes, and I'll kind of talk you through this, but from 8/8 until today, we saw a swing of almost 1%, or 100 basis points, nearly 100 basis points. The good news is that the last 2 weeks, we saw the market move in your favor about 36 basis points. And so I felt like for a while there, I wanted to make sure that I kept you guys, district administration, posted on where interest rates were. No surprises on the sale day, and I felt like I was only given bad news for a little while there. But we did see some market correction here in the last few weeks, and so that helped us achieve favorable results here today. And ultimately, and I'll go over the details here in a second, but the interest rates where they are today, if you look at the bond buyer revenue bond index since 1990, interest rates have been higher than they are today 73% of the time. So historically speaking, you've received a good interest rate. It's a favorable borrowing environment. And you know, just to kind of put this into perspective, our lowest project fund was calculated on 10/9. We did several revisions of the plan of finance that's before you right now, and we did one on 10/9, and that was producing $37.6 million in project funds. And you're going to see in a second that we did about $2 million better than that because the market rates were more favorable. And another thing to keep in mind, every time the market moved 25 basis points or 0.25%, it cost the district $1 million, the project fund. So when I say roller coaster of emotions, you know, these are real dollars here, and obviously are ultimately going to pay for your schools. And you know, we were hoping for favorable results, so we are able to report some tonight. So we did take the time to investigate bond insurance. There's two main companies that provide bond insurance, and we were able to get a bid from one of those two companies. Bond insurance on new building construction can be difficult to get because there is construction risk. You know, in terms of security for the bonds, while the building's being built, there's some additional risk for the insurance companies. But we were able to get Build America Mutual comfortable, and they ultimately gave us a bid. And so that was positive, and it ended up net of the premium that you pay, it produced an additional $250,000 for your project fund. So net of the premium. So it ended up being a good thing. We did, as I mentioned earlier, we did get information out to local investors, and we can't disclose specific amounts publicly, but we can say that you did have local investors participate, and they were supportive of the financing. Our subscription percentage, so this morning we priced bonds between 9:30 and 11 o'clock Eastern time. And, first of all, we want to make sure that we sell all your bonds. But in this case, we had we had 2 times subscription on this. So basically, we had 80 million in orders, and we were offering 40 million. And so that allows us to go back and look through these orders and lower some of the interest cost. So we were able to lower the yields by 1 to 4 basis points on some maturities, which ended up placing more in your project fund as well. And you'd be amazed at the types of investors. I mentioned your local investors, but we had everybody from your local bank here in Marshall to large Wall Street type firms investing in Marshall COP. So pretty impressive response. And so the outcome of the sale, the final results are $40,050,000 in par amount, $517,000 in premium was generated. And so that generates a total of $39,566,507 of project fund, which again is about $2 million more than we estimated a month ago because of market improvement. And so that's producing roughly $34.8 million for your intermediate school and $4.68 for the energy improvements. And the final maturity is on 3/1/2049, and your true interest cost is 4.84%. Next steps, we have to approve the COP resolution tonight, and that locks in the final rates and amounts. We will work toward closing on 11/28, and the funds will be invested at that time. First, they'll go to Security Bank, who's a trustee, and then they will go to MOCAT from there for your investment of the proceeds. And I think that pretty much sums it up. Dr. Markley, anything to add?
The only thing I would add is the volatility that we've seen and the spread throughout the market. It's been that way for several months now. I think it's very important that when you hear about that oversubscription of $80 million, if you had 80 million, they would have bought today. And I think what you need to read into that is Marshall is a good gamble, okay? Even though interest rates are crazy, we're not sure where they're going to go. What you've done financially, we saw here tonight with Caleb, and what you've done to shore up your finances. Well, even with the market being the way it is, people can see past that, and they can see that we want to invest in Marshall. So I think it's important that you walk away and people that are here, or hearing on TV, that they're supporting people outside of the community who are supporting what you're doing.
And I said to the administration today in a brief email, this is a historic day for Marshall, and it is for us as well at Raymond James in Missouri. So we're glad to be your partner, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Don't necessarily have a question as much as I have a comment, as much as you all talked about the swinging pendulum of, the 36 to, 38 in excess or wherever we're looking at. It seems that we closed out in a good place, and timing's everything, to some degree. So, the community saw the timing for us in the spring and voted for us to go. The timing worked out right for us in the end. So everything's coming to a good spot for us right now. So
Unbelievable.
thank you, guys.
The expression, it's better to be lucky than good. I'd argue that we were both in this case. Even moving the board meeting from Tuesday to Monday, I think probably worked in your favor because there's some reports that are coming out later this week that may have some influence on the market negatively.
Because I think there was a lot more good work than luck involved for sure. And for Raymond James, I believe this was the first successful issue for school in Missouri. Am I right about that? Raymond James is huge, has done a lot, but what was our ranking in that? I guess.
Our second COP offer.
Second COP for a school.
Successful pass.
So,
Yes, first successful election pass.
I think with all the things and two superintendents that hadn't done this before, I'm really grateful for, there's so much based on not just experience, but relationships, and I feel that we got lucky for the skill that came on board with them. So thank you all for your work and what Raymond James did, and Gilmore and Bell. There's a lot of great people at work, so thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Move along from good news to other good news, looking at old business, the city land exchange, which has been in your packet as well for you to look at for our first reading. This is just informational for us. As Mr. Pettit spoke about, this is looking at us transferring the Eastwood property and the additional property of the kind of alleyway or drive behind that, and then transferring to the city for a little over 100 acres of land, which is undeveloped out in the Hab Center area. So the city and the school district are been working pretty cooperatively. Dr. Lutterby and his crew over there at the city have been coming along with us and meeting us along the way. There's been some other agreements about working on the smokestack to help us as we're going along. So thank you for the city as well, working with us as the district as we're trying to move the district in the right direction. They realize that's only going to move the city in the right direction too, and kind of looking at long-range planning for both of us together. So if anyone doesn't have another comment, I'm going to keep moving down to our new business. Lunch fee collections policy, that was in there for a second reading. We'll have a little more discussion for that before that comes to something that we will finalize. If there are some things that you'd like to speak with Mr. Pettit about, as I do, I really don't want to get in a situation where we're going to our public or we're going to our parents and we're saying we're going to have to send collections agencies after you for school lunch. That just feels horrible. You know, but we also have to look at it financially and say $60,000, as Mr. Pettit and I were talking earlier, and he just said out here, that's one teacher a year. So when we're talking about, you know, salaries and shortages and other things, like, we have to make sure that we're recouping things in other areas as well. I'm torn on this. I just want you all to know I don't know if I can vote for it or not at all. So, but we will be discussing this more and moving down that road. And of course, he's researching avenues to kind of keep us in the kind of in where everybody else is falling on this, but also where we as a small community want to make sure we're taking care of our own and our students aren't sitting around hungry throughout the day. That's never going to be the intent of this at all. So kids will be fed. It's just how we have to work with adults. Transfer of funds to MOSIP Investments. That was a first reading as well. And a lot of our smaller meetings, as we've worked through some of the trainings with Dr. Henson and other things we have came up with, talking about investments, being able to capitalize on the reserves that we have on hand. Reserves just means that we keep some money in the bank, because at some point in time, we have to make sure that we're going to be able to meet salary, payroll, those kind of things. And if we can maximize that money that's there and get a better return on that, then that's our obligation and something we can also do as a district. Money just sitting there, not earning a great rate for us, doesn't do anything but make sure we have it in the bank. If we're able to make it work for us, just like you want to make it work for you at home, then we need to make sure we look at our investments and what we can do for it. So. Next, we do need a motion for approval of the Board of Education election filing dates. And
I didn't see these in my packet.
I'm sure I have that motion language here, that I need a motion to approve the Board of Education filing dates for December 5th, 2023 through December 26th, 2023. There will be 2 seats available for 3-year terms, and that is Dr. Meyer and myself, who are going to be up this year for elections.
So moved.
Second.
What was it again, Brian?
The dates?
Yeah, the date.
December 5th through December 26th. Those do go over our holiday break, and we will make sure that we publicize the times that people will be able to come out to central office and turn in their packets and paperwork as well, probably in our next meeting as we get those outlined. So, and the April board meeting will be Tuesday, April 9th, and that will be to certify the election results and to swear in the new members or current members as they seem to see fit to be elected or not. So. It's been moved and seconded. Has there been any other discussion? No? All those in favor of the dates of the 5th through the 26th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving down to the sell with Shep and the auctioneer agreement. This was also in your packet as well. We were looking at our next surplus auction to be our surplus sale actually to be a surplus auction. There will also be some building sites that come into play that we have on the campus at the Hab Center that we are looking to maybe scrap and kind of get rid of as well, interior things, and probably the shells of the building will come down as well as we look to build roads and kind of go into that space and turn it into something else. So the only thing I was looking at in that contract was it does, I guess I will see if there's a motion and then I'll go to the discussion. As I learned a lot about parliamentary procedure, sometimes we talk before we motion, so.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. The only thing that I saw in there is that there would be a 30% fee on the proceeds. I don't know if that's standard auctioneer language or not. I haven't participated in an auction, but that,
I've never, that's out of my.
When we put this out there, we went to, we had 2 auctioneers that came forward and gave us an opportunity to work with them. This was the only fixed one. The other one had kind of a moving collection fee, and it also had a 3-week open auction where people would be able to come online and bid, so things would have to be in a set place. So we decided to bring to you this one because it is at least fixed, so it'll be a simple understanding of the translation of what our net profit is, and we could not tie up the space for 3 weeks.
Easier for us to follow then?
Yeah. We have some desirable objects. Obviously, getting those buildings we're going to tear down, scrapped out, is a neat prospect that we didn't have with the other auctioneer. But the biggest thing is ultimately when we close these other schools, we're going to have a lot of surplus, and we need our surplus space empty.
You're gonna get a lot of exposure from him or the other one. I mean, they're gonna.
They were both
promote
good.
themselves too, so you
Yeah.
probably.
I think both would have been great. It was just the parameters that we could work in. So we went with this one.
And you're probably gonna make 30% more than you would have at minimum, just from that exposure, so.
I do enjoy being an auctioneer, moonlighting as an auctioneer, but I think this one's a little too big, so probably better not.
Could already pay you once, we might not be able to go back to the 30%, so. As the question has been asked to be called, all those in favor of adopting the contract with Sell and Shep as outlined, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I need to abstain.
Need to recuse yourself? All right.
Excuse myself.
Yes.
Whatever. Nepotism.
So that would be 6 and 1 recuse. The motion passes, of course, so. Next, the resolution authorizing the delivery of the district certificates of participation. As Dr. Reich outlined that earlier, this is the formality to make sure that we are finishing off all the paperwork and dotting the i's and crossing the t's, and he's going to be able to finish his job for us and their job on their side for us.
So move.
Second, third.
It's been moved, seconded, and third. It will not bring us any more revenues, but it is nice to hear. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, gentlemen, as well. So next, we're going to motion to
So
adjourn to
moved.
closed session for lease, purchase, sale of real estate, hiring, firing, and disciplining, scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation identifiable by individual students, preparation of negotiations with employee groups, and individual personnel records. It has been recognized and moved by Dr. Carroll and, Dr. Meyer and Mr. Carroll down on the end.
She beat me, she's got it.
I'm going to start over here. Brad?
Aye.
Matt? Harry?
Aye.
You got it?
Aye.
And I. Thank you all.